Yeah! Welcome to a new series called The Most Powerful Black Man of the Last 500 Years, where we discuss life during the reign of King Henri Christophe, Commander-in-Chief of Northern Haiti from 1802 to 1820 until his death. We discuss a black man who had to navigate a political landscape dominated by other generals who were just as gangster as he was, and also a geopolitical landscape where slavery was still at its height and everybody was against the black man. How did this man rise to become the most powerful black man of the 1800s and the most wealthy black man of the 1800s? We are going to examine it in this series. Welcome to part 1. Let's get into it. Although Dessalines failed to nominate a successor, Henri Christophe, the commander-in-chief of the army and the last of the great Negro leaders produced by the slave insurrection, was proclaimed provisional head of the state. The circumstances and place of his birth remain obscure. According to an official document published by his own order, he was born on October 6, 1767, in the British island of Grenada. Some historians, however, give his birthplace as the British island of St. Kitts. Now, in this series, we're not going to spend too much time on the Haitian Revolutionary period. In fact, we are going to start directly after the assassination of Dessalines. We are not going to focus on the inner workings of the revolution and everything before that. We are going to focus on the life during the reign of King Henri Christophe, just so y'all know the context of the situation. At all events, Christophe was a pure-blooded Negro. He was certainly a slave during his childhood, and he found his way to Haiti as a boy. Charles Mackenzie, who became British Consul General to Haiti in 1826, says that Christophe was the slave of a French gentleman, but it is not clear whether the French gentleman was his master before or after Christophe came to Haiti. He became the property of a French naval officer, who he accompanied to Savannah, Georgia during the American Revolution. He was later sold to a free Negro owner of a hotel at Cap Français. Serving first as a stable boy and afterward as a waiter, he came into contact with elite white men, and although he received no formal education, his natural powers of observation and his humility gave him first-hand information about the French and particularly about the new political ideas coming from France, revolutionary ideas, which as later events proved has been largely eagerly absorbed by the listening Negro slaves. In 1793, apparently having purchased his freedom, he married Marie-Louise Quavidad, the daughter of his Negro owner. During the rise of Toussaint, he became a formidable leader. Christophe was tall, strong, and handsome with bright flashing eyes. A fine, portly-looking man, as a British naval officer who visited Haiti in 1818 described him. He is now growing stout, the officer continues, and on horseback, where he certainly looks his best, has much the appearance of old George. He is quite black, with the manner and countenance when in good humor. Very intelligent, pleasant, and expressive. He has risen to power through his dominating personality. He was a man of action and demanded unhesitating obedience. He had little inclination of pity. Impetuous and headstrong, he permitted no opposition to his will, and the fury of his anger knew no bounds. Yet he was gifted with social grace. White men who visited him reported that his conversation was entertaining and his manners charming. He was ostentatious and delighted in pomp and ceremony. He possessed an exceptional memory, and he seems to have understood both French and English. It has been reported that he conducted his conferences with English officers in French in order that he might gather his thoughts while the translations were being made and that he might test the loyalty of his interpreter. On one occasion, he used his English to rebuke an American captain who was brought before him for infraction of the law. Proud and ambitious, Christophe was well equipped to lead his people. But he had no illusions concerning self-government, and he believed that only arbitrary power could bring order and prosperity to the devastated island. He realized with almost tragic clarity that the Haitians must be protected against themselves. Christophe, fired by a magnificent ambition, determined to transform them overnight into an orderly, hardworking, and self-respecting nation. Christophe was opposed by General Alexander Pétion, the leader of the mulattoes. Born in Port-au-Prince, the son of a mixed-race mother and a white French jeweler, Pétion was educated in the French military academy in Paris. At the time of the mulatto struggle against Toussaint in 1799, he was General André Rigaud's favorite lieutenant, and with Rigaud, he fled to France when Toussaint conquered the southern province. He accompanied Charles Leclerc's expedition against the Negroes in 1802. Napoleon's reinstitution of the colonial discriminations against the mulattoes turned Pétion into the camp of the Negroes, and he recognized that the future of the mulattoes lay in the independence of Haiti with the Africans. Pétion participated in the Declaration of Independence at Gonaïves, took the oath of allegiance to Dessalines, and was made general and commander at Port-au-Prince. Mild-tempered and conciliatory, he was slow to action. As a military man, he preferred the siege to the shifting battle, for he was an artilleryman, not a campaigner like Christophe. His gentle manners were combined with a genuine desire for the good of his country. Two men of such wildly different temperaments as the Negro Christophe and the mulatto Pétion were naturally in disagreement on political policy. Christophe believed in an iron fist. Pétion believed that the Haitian people ought to be given full liberty and that force should be abandoned. Conflict between the two was inevitable. It was generally agreed after the death of Emperor Dessalines that the monarch form of government should be modified, and Christophe, as the provisional leader, ordered the election of representatives to a constitutional assembly, which was to meet in Port-au-Prince for the purpose of establishing a republican government. He did not, of course, envision the creation of a democratic state. Rather, he expected the assembly to frame a government which would concentrate the executive, legislative, and military power in a president, and he felt sure that he would be elected to that office. Since the 33 electors from the northern province formed the majority, and since Christophe could dominate them, he remained aloof at Cap-Haïtien, his headquarters, confident that the assembly would do his bidding. Pétion, however, circumvented him by increasing the number of deputies from the west and southern provinces. He succeeded in gaining a majority of 41 to 33 in the assembly. Despite the protests of the members from the north at this illegal proceeding, the assembly set to work, and on December 27, 1806, a constitution, mainly inspired by Pétion, was approved. Democratic in form, it reduced the office of the president to nothing of a figurehead and placed the legislative power, the control of the army, and the right to appoint ministers in the hands of a Senate of 24 members. The next day, the assembly, having removed the presidency of all real authority and made of it only an honorary distinction, elected Christophe president for a 4-year term. When Christophe learned of these transactions, he was infuriated, and he spurned the proffer of so empty an honor, which, as one of his delegates declared, demoted him to the authority of nothing but a corporal. Instead, he determined to make himself military master of Haiti, and thus be able to impose a government of his own upon the country. He quickly assembled his troops and marched on Port-au-Prince. A few miles from the town, he was opposed by an army led by General Pétion, who had hastily prepared to resist the assault. On January 1st, 1807, the two armies met. The superior forces of Christophe were completely successful, and Pétion, his army, shattered, barely escaped with his life. On January 6th, Christophe launched an attack upon Port-au-Prince itself, but the forces of Pétion, having been augmented by reinforcements from the south, stood their ground, and Christophe was defeated. 2 days later, he withdrew his army and returned to his headquarters in the north. At the end of January, the new Senate at Port-au-Prince declared Christophe to be an outlaw, and the presidency was vacant. On March 9th, after considerable bickering, the Senate elected General Pétion president of the Republic of Haiti for 4 years. The turn of events now ironically placed him in the very office he had so eagerly divested of all power, and before long he found it necessary to remove many provisions of the new constitution. In the end, he vested himself with all the powers he had been so unwilling to grant to Christophe. In the meantime, Christophe set about drafting a constitution for the area that he controlled. On February 17, 1807, it was approved by delegates of his own choosing, and he was elected president and generalissimo of the land and sea forces for life. Thus, by 1807, only 3 years after the proclamation of independence, Haiti was divided into two governments: the state of Haiti under General Christophe and the Republic of Haiti under General Pétion. Christophe controlled the northern province and parts of the western province. Pétion held sway over the remaining part of the west and the remaining part of the south. Christophe located his government at Cap-Haïtien, while Port-au-Prince was the seat of Pétion's regime. Although the territory of Christophe was somewhat larger, the population of the two domains was about equal. Perhaps Christophe should have accepted the presidency, which was offered to him in 1806, and then gone on to remove the provisions of the Constitution, as Pétion was later to do. He was too headstrong, too impetuous to follow such a course, but his action in creating a separate state in the north plunged Haiti into a civil war destined to last 6 years and divided Haiti into two governments for 14 years. Between 1807 and 1810, Pétion made a series of incursions, both by sea and land, into the realm of Christophe. Although Pétion achieved some successes, Christophe's army was ultimately successful. In the end, Christophe had not only driven out the invaders, but he had cleared the entire northern province of pockets of resistance to his authority. Although Pétion was able to launch 4 separate campaigns against Christophe, there was much dissension in his own territory. The southern province especially resented his authority, and after the return in 18 of General Andre Rigaud, the old mulatto enemy of Toussaint Louverture, the South broke into open rebellion. But the death of Andre Rigaud in 1811 brought an end to the rebellion. Meanwhile, Christophe was highly distressed by the innumerable defections among his adherents, province, which he attributed to Pétion's never-ending propaganda campaigns. And in 1812, he launched a full-scale attack upon the western province with 20,000 soldiers. His army soon captured the outpost protecting Port-au-Prince and placed the city under siege. For more than 2 months, he battered the city's defenses, but instead of pushing his attack to its conclusion, he suddenly raised the siege and withdrew, thus bringing to an end not only his campaign, but open warfare between him and General Alexander Pétion. Thenceforth, a sort of armed truce existed, and no further military operations were undertaken between the two. During the years between 1807 and 1811, Christophe seems to have clung to the belief that the unity of the whole of Haiti might be achieved, and he awaited the expiration of Pétion's 4-year term of office in the vain hope that the new election would place himself and not Pétion in the presidency of the entire island. The re-election of Pétion by the Senate on March 9, 1811, indicated clearly the determination of the west and southern provinces to ignore him. Accordingly, on March 28th, he was proclaimed King Henri I. The quickness with which Christophe announced the hereditary monarchy, promulgated the constitution, and set up a nobility offers irrefutable evidence that he had long planned to abandon the farce of a republican government in his territory. The creation of hereditary nobility was his first concern, whereas Dessalines had refused to permit the establishment of an aristocracy. Christophe felt it was necessary to add this to his own government. At the top was the royal family, including the king himself, Queen Marie-Louise Quavidad, the prince Jacques-Victor Henri, and 2 princesses, including several others. Next in order were the grand officers of the kingdom, the ministers of the 4 general departments of the government, and the grand civil officers of the crown. They were created 8 dukes, 22 counts, 37 barons, and 14 chevaliers. Christophe also founded the Royal and Military Order of Saint-Henri. His court, patterned after that of England, was to be lavish and formal as any in Europe, and the minutest detail of dress and etiquette were strictly prescribed. In preparation for the coronation, Christophe ordered the construction of a cathedral. In 2 months, several hundred laborers, regimented and formed into brigades, produced a building 250 feet square and 80 feet high, and furnished with a throne, galleries for the great ladies of the court, chapels, oratories, an orchestra, and all the arrangements necessary for the august ceremony. The formal coronation was held on June 2nd, 1811. The new Archbishop of Haiti consecrated Christophe King Henri I with the stately splendor so dear to the king's heart. The festivities consumed for 8 days straight. Several British and American guests were invited to attend the official banquet, at which the new king, in acknowledgement of a toast proposed by Captain Douglas of the English frigate Reindeer, responded by toasting, "My dear brother George, may his life be preserved by the great ruler of the universe, and may he oppose an invincible obstacle to an unbridled ambition of Napoleon, and remain always the constant friend of Haiti." Christophe was a shrewd and far-sighted man who judged himself as well as others. He had dreamed his dream of the future of his race, and to achieve his goals, he gathered around him a group of men who advised him in the administration of his kingdom, taught him the history of other nations, and read to him the important journals of the day. Thus, he came to know a good deal about the political science and civil and military organization, and kept himself up to date with the stormy events of Napoleon's career. He particularly reverenced the genius of Frederick the Great. His administrative experience under Toussaint, too, had given him some practical knowledge of government, but the gigantic task of framing a code of laws suited to the Haitian people and yet capable of transforming them into a hard-working and law-abiding group of people required the assistance of others. An English visitor to Haiti said, "It is his mind and his alone that governs all. He has the most able men of his kingdom employed about his person, but they are the mere executors of his will." To Julien Prévost, the Count of Limonade, Christophe assigned the important post of Secretary of State and Minister of Foreign Affairs, a mulatto who had been educated in France. Limonade was intelligent and well-informed, mild and temperate. He was wholly attached to the cause of the monarch and worked with unceasing energy for the best interests of the state. In 1811, as the official propagandist of the king, he published an account of Christophe's rise to the throne. He carried on much of the foreign correspondence and composed many of the edicts and proclamations issued during Christophe's reign. He was one of the most cultured and distinguished of Christophe's close associates. Second in importance was Pompée Valentin, Baron de Vasty, another mulatto who had been educated in France. Christophe gave him the office of private secretary and appointed him to the Privy Council. Vasty possessed a wide range of historical and political information, and he was among the chief defenders of the Kingdom of Haiti. He had been one of Dessalines' secretaries, fierce and passionate. He hated the whites and wished to exterminate them. In short, says one authority, he was the very counterpart of Dessalines, an assemblage of all that was mean and savage and diabolical. Yet he was fanatically devoted to Christophe and placed the results of his wide reading at the disposal of the king. Made secretary of the commission, which drew up a code of laws for the kingdom. In the fullest sense, he was Christophe's friend and advisor. He was entrusted too with the duty of superintending the education of the Prince Royal, Jacques Victor. So yes, around this time, we're in the early 1810s. Christophe is solidifying his power in the north, establishing his government. As you can tell, the common lie that was told was that, after Haiti's independence, ain't nobody really wanted to rock with us. But as you can see, American and British diplomats were present at the official coronation of King Henry. So obviously, like I said, these were not official relations on paper, but yes, the foreign governments were involved with Haiti because, like I said, this was the richest colony on the planet. So nobody's going to stop doing business with the richest colony on the planet just because black men are in power. So yes, let's continue. The third of Christophe's advisors was Baron Dupuy. Born about 1780, he had been under Dessalines, but had not risen to a position of any importance. Despising Dessalines, he migrated to Philadelphia, where he is said to have made a fortune. The reign of Christophe seemingly provided peace and opportunity. He returned to Haiti. Dupuy was a man of great natural talent and well versed in history and politics. He became Christophe's secretary and interpreter, and was able to be of assistance in the practical administration of the kingdom. But as was the case with Limonade and Bastille, Dupuy did not create the dreams of Christophe. He merely brought to bear on the ambitious schemes of his sovereign, a mind tempered by successful competition amongst American businessmen. Mention should be made of Prince Saunders, also spelled Sanders, a black American Negro. He was born in New England and attended Moorish Charity School at Dartmouth College in 1807 and 1808. Saunders' activity on behalf of the less fortunate members of his own race won him the friendship of several influential Americans who sent him to England with numerous letters of recommendation. At the suggestion of English abolitionists, he came to Haiti to assist in organizing the schools and to forward the cause. He almost became at once a rabid follower of Christophe and determined to make known the integrity of Christophe's character and the enlightened nature of the Haitian government. In 1816, he published the Haitian Papers in London, and 2 years later reissued the book in Boston. It is said that Saunders introduced vaccination into Haiti and personally vaccinated Christophe's children. So we're going to end part 1 right here. And I'm telling you right now, this is going to be an epic series, probably one of the best that I'm ever going to do. The information that's going to be dropped, information that ain't nobody ever heard. Man, I'm telling you, it's going to be epic. And black men got to listen to this front to back, every part, because this is a black man, like I said, who was handling all this business during the height of slavery. This is the early 1810s. Listen, the majority of black men in the early 1810s is under the whip, under the chain of European chattel slavery right now. And Christophe is one of the richest, most powerful men on the earth right now. And the homies back in Africa, they at war right now. They destabilized right now. They're not at peace right now. So Christophe is at the top of the food chain right now. And we must understand the mindset of a man that navigated these heavy waters. All right. We have to draw inspiration from it. And it's going to be an epic series. And listen, stay tuned. Stay posted. Listen, part 2 coming soon. We are going to go through all the political letters, the government letters. Like I said, remember I told you a while ago, King Henri Christophe wrote a letter to the Emperor of Russia, and I have that. And yes, we are going to read it during this series. Listen, this series is going to be epic, bro. It's going to be epic. All right. This should be a movie, but listen, we're going to make it, a podcast or an audiobook. So stay tuned. The most powerful black man of the last 500 years, part 1. Stay tuned. Part 2 coming soon. Peace.
Reincarnated, I'm back in original fashion. I left on a horse and came back in the ass, and I left with abundance and came back to famine. We used to be pyramids, now we be rapping. Look how the mighty have fallen. Used to be running, now we be walking. When you be cooning, that's when they applauded. Selling your soul, your sons and your daughter. Gotta come up in this shit, they stuck in the mix. Really, my heart it be breaking. That's why I'm stacking that paper and handle my business. Pass it down in generation. Talking about money and power and building a nation. That's a deadly combination. Never be watching the TV, they pushing agendas, falsifying information. Know they got malice intentions. Step in the room and I'm feeling the tension. Enemy watching, he blocking my vision. Pay for the check cause I need my redemption. Building my kingdom, I need it protected. Ready for war like a young Money Congo. Never decided the team is the motto. Up in the crib and I'm whipping up waffles. Up in the crib and I'm smoking gelato. I'm chilling, I'm taking my pain and make it ambition. I'm blessed by the gods, but I ain't religious. I came for the power, they came for the bitch. They making no hourly wage, I got business. This is an art and they could never be taught. Selling my soul, I can never be bought. Play with my money, I see you ain't caught. Run to the check and I do it for sport. Babylon falling, I go to the source. Packing my luggage and go overseas. Shorty be with me and she so elite. Shorty be chocolate, I'm calling her Hershey. Secret intelligence probably gon' murk me. Don't fuck with brands cause nigga I'm Haitian. Say the wrong shit and you're smacking their faces.